everyone, this is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this newest episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone.
And joining us as our returning guest this week is someone whose miniature painting work you would have seen on Warhammer Community's website so often by this point, you wonder why they're not just officially part of the heavy metal team. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest this time is none other than Chickpaints.
Hello everybody, thank you. That was such a glowing introduction. Yes. I'm not part
of it. It's correct.
Yeah, I'd love to be part of that team, but anyway, thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. So how's everyone doing today?
I'm good. Warhammer Club was really nice. We've got a day off coming up soon, and so me and a few colleagues are going to get together and probably have a game as well, which is going to be nice.
Great.
Nice.
I've got horrific allergies. Horrific. I make it sound worse than it is, but pollen.
Hay fever season, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, I hate pollen.
I hate too, don't worry. And I am in immense amounts of physical pain because my spine is literally screaming at me and trying to exit my body at this very moment. It sucks. But yes. In the news this week, what do we actually have? Because I'll be honest, I've not actually been paying too much attention because of various things.
Yes, well, if we're being technical, it's actually this month because we didn't do the news on 150. So, yeah, we could be here a while. So let's just do the cliff notes of some very important bits, particularly on the 40k side, because obviously that's what most of our viewers, particularly your viewers, are here for. So... Yes. Shorthand, there is a Chaos Space Marine Codex on the shelf tomorrow at time of recording. I think I'm actually going to go and pick that one up. We have all the new rules around that. A balanced data slate for Kill Team, AOS, 40k, all of that. So we've got all that. That's great. Model-wise, we have seen... updates, full squad of the Votan Hearthkin with included rules. And we've also had a look at their Ironkin, which is the AI that basically live and work alongside them as equals because we're not humans, except we actually are. We also got a bunch of new Astra Militarum kits, one of which appears to be coming as part of the next Kill Team box game. Speaking of which, there is going to be a Kill Team and other skirmish games preview on the 10th of July at 2 p.m. BST. So that's happening as well. We got a Votan lore article, an AOS battle box, Lumineth versus Tzeentch. We've got a closer look at the Heresy Contemptor Dreadnought kit. We also got some more Black Library stuff that's come out. A bit of a look at Cultists. The Necromunda Wasteland Workshop gets an article. High Marshal Helbrecht's getting a novel. An article about Warzone Nephilim, for those of you who play competitively. And new contrast paints and new shade paints as well. There has been a lot in the last month. If you miss one episode of Podcastus, all of a sudden it goes completely crazy.
That's a lot of stuff. Can I touch on like the contrast stuff? So they're pre-order.
Yes, as a painter, I think it's a pro painter or a semi-pro. I don't know exactly how you'd classify yourself, but
me. That's just me. So they are on pre-order tomorrow, which is the 2nd of July. They're really nice. They've been demoing the paints in GW stores this week, I think. They're really nice. They're really nice. Some people are going to love them. If you like contrast, you'll like them. If you don't like contrast, have a look, because I think there might be some in there that you like. And honestly, they're not paying me to say this. I sound like I'm a sales, but they are really nice. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those. I never bought into contrast. I love the idea of contrast. I always have, but I never bought in the first time because, particularly for me, it always came down to the fact that you always had to undercoat, and that usually, at least for proper projects where you're doing lots of models, requires spraying, which I've never done due to living particularly in rented accommodation and thus not being really sure if I can or should spray.
You can.
I get the idea of it and I like the appeal. It's just I've never really gone for it.
You can brush on. I mean, I remember when they first come out, which was about 3 years ago. I loved them and I picked a few up. and I kind of integrated them into my painting tools that I use, but then I started to phase them out again in favor of just what I was using already. I mean, I don't mind painting on the undercoat, but spraying that does make it easier. But it's just like the new colors are more, to me, they look more vibrant and there's more selection. Because like the first time round, we just got the basics like yellow and orange and blue and such. And now we just got absolutely bonkers colors, and I dig them completely.
Yeah, there's some really nice ones. I quite like some of the reds and blues that they've done, but there's also some colours that you wouldn't expect to find, such as burgundy and luminous green and greys and various shades of turquoise.
Yeah,
there's some really nice colours in there.
Can I just say that you said it, the Sigvold burgundy is a very beautiful colour. I've seen it today, and I was just gobsmacked at how, oh God, I sound like I'm selling for Citadel, but they are.
Well, I really like Baraknar Burgundy, the actual base paint. I do actually quite like using that paint. So
I've never really used much in the way of Burgundy, but I'm kind of thinking I might add some more of that into my painting and stuff.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. But let's not forget while we're here, the shade paints. So they're the washes, by the way. So what they've done is they've reformulated the entire shade range. So all the washes that you know are being updated with a new sort of formulation for any new box or new pot you buy. So it's not just that they're bringing out new ones, they've actually reformulated all of the old ones. They've also added 7 more, another blue, another red, 2 more greens, sort of a greyish burgundy, purpley brown, I don't even know what colour that is, grime, sepia, and grey. A grey wash. I didn't know I wanted a grey wash in my life, but I think that's a really clever idea for those who think Nuln Oil is a bit much for certain jobs, like white.
No, I agree. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off, but I've had a chance to try some of the new shades, and the new formulas are really nice. I think I prefer them over like what we were getting.
I was just going to say, I think that the Soul Blight Grey, that's going to be really good for people who want to maybe paint up white scars, because it gets the shading without making it too dark.
Yeah, paint slightly off white to Actually, no, I think that's actually a good application for that. Yeah, there's loads. Just to experiment.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And a new white spray.
The white scar spray, yeah, it's really good. I'm saying it's really good, and I mean it. I don't normally endorse stuff unless I like it myself, but yeah, I quite like it.
What else have we got in the news as well? Because we've got quite a lot of it to get through.
Well, we've done miniature and painting. I think I really want to touch on the Astra Militarum, if that's all right. So, we were given a few weeks ago, it was back at the start of June actually, so some of our viewers may have forgotten. We were given new units for the Astra Militarum, both brand new and reimagined. I think there was a potato cam leak that happened just before this, and thus GW were forced to respond.
Yeah, it literally happened 1 or 2 days before.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that, and then I know. I'll let you explain.
I don't know how much there is to explain. There was a potato cam leak, and so they did a formal article about it. I'm not sure what else there is to...
I know, I'm just looking at the article, and I'm just
Yes. Well, the model's in question then. So, Creed is dead, long live Creed. Ursula Creed, the daughter of the former Lord Castellan, Isaka Creed, and now Lord Castellan herself. It is not nepotism. It is not a hereditary title. It is apparently well earned. And so a lot of people were very, very happy with this model. And I really like it too. In particular, the fact that you've got a couple of different head options, including a very, very class World War II style helmet, which I believe is a reference directly to Winston Churchill, though I'm willing to be corrected.
I think it is, yeah. I also like her tattered greatcoat, which is supposedly, her father's coat, but then again, wasn't he wearing it when Trazen spirited him away? I
forgot his coat.
Yeah, because Kel died, and they do say that Trazeen got Creed. Even more excitingly, actual plastic Kassakin. Hello?
Before we jump into the Kassakin, Can I just say that the Ursula Cream model, it reminds me of what was her name? The teacher from Matilda.
There were a few Mrs. Trunchbull comments I recall.
Yeah, Trunchbull. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. But yes, Kassakin.
As in looking like the kind of person you absolutely do not want to fuck with. She will dress you down harsh.
I mean, she is the Lord Castellan of no longer the Arcadia, so I think that's completely fair.
But yes, Kassakin.
Kassakin. Yeah, I have always had a bit of a soft spot for the Kassakin. I did have a guard army for a while, like back when I was just starting this channel. Actually, my army when I started this channel was guard. And I have since sold it on, but I do like the Kassakin. Whenever you see stormtroopers and things like that show up in lore, but then they retired the stormtroopers in favour of the Militarum Tempestus, and the Kassakin kind of just got shoved off to one side. So it's good to see them back. And they look really cool. And it's suspected these guys are going to be in the kill team box, whatever it ends up being, just because of the basing.
I can see that, yeah.
But they're a really, really nice kit. From what I can see of them, they look really, really good. So happy with that.
And we're also getting a new Sentinel.
That is nice, isn't it? That I love, of the options for it are so cool. I can see just pinching some stuff off this just for kit bashes and stuff.
I think some people were a bit annoyed by the fact they've actually changed the silhouette of the Sentinel quite significantly, in that it's not as boxy as it used to be, and not as, I think the Armoured Sentinel is a lot less ATST-like now, because it's a lot smoother along the front. So I think that's probably a good move in the long run, but it did confuse a few people at first, as I recall.
It definitely looks a lot more armoured than the current Sentinel kit, at the very least. Yeah,
because I think what they did is with the old one, they just basically made an upgrade sprue to the Sentinel kit and just called it a day.
Yeah, we've got a nice selection of weapon options. It looks like a heavy plasma gun, hunter killer missile, heavy flamer. Is that a multi-laser, the Gatling gun looking thing?
No, I think that a multi-laser is a lot smaller than that. That looks more like a rocket cannon.
I think it is something like some kind of missile launcher.
Could be in the style of the Taurox missile launcher, which I remember having multiple barrels.
Yeah.
But yes, I was really pleased with those models. I think overall, just in general, we've talked about it a lot, but the miniature design is really, really good at the minute. Always has been. But one thing that I think goes underrated about these models is how, compared to a lot of models, like the Chaos Space Marines, for example, the Chaos Space Marines look amazing. Do not get me wrong. The Possessed, a lot of the Cultists, I still hold some reservations about some of them. The Marines, the Chosen, the Warpsmith, etc. But because of the nature of the Chaos Marines, they're very detailed. These models are not. They are. They're very simple in terms of they've got a lot of flat surfaces for freehanding, transfers, markings, rather than having it all seemingly sculpted in, which I know is something that I can imagine a lot of painters would be quite annoyed about, having all the details they'd normally freehand being sculpted on for them, meaning, I didn't want to paint that symbol, I wanted to do something else. Why can't I do that? Because it's scraped in, I've got to file it all off now. Well, I can see the argument anyway, that I'm not the most qualified to speak on the matter. But
I think it looks great. I do know what you mean. It's annoying when you have to remove stuff that could have been an option. The new models, wow, so many opportunities for highlights. Yes, I like them. They're great. I want to see more. I can't wait to see more, hopefully, soon.
Absolutely. I'm hoping we get a full look at the Kassakin in the kill team. And with Chaos Marines now out as of the time of this video coming out, I get the feeling that since they've got the combat patrols out for everybody, Genestealer cults and all that are done, I think Guard will hopefully be next in the, if you pardon the phrasing, in the firing line to get done.
And then they just swerve everyone and release the squats first.
Yeah.
They put the Votan. But that's a good segue into the Votan miniatures that we have seen. So the first one we got was the Ironkin. So this is one of the AI mechanical intellects. This isn't one from the standard squad. This is something slightly different. So
he looks absolutely adorable with his little leather apron and gloves.
Agreed. It's definitely a very nice design. And you can actually get these as, there can get Ironkin models in standard squads too. but these seem to be like assistants to the engineers. I think is what this particular model is one of the assistants to the engineers, though I'm willing to be wrong. But it does talk about some of the things that they do. Like they've got microfield generators, they've got deeply personal components, etc., etc. This is how they do navigators as well. They have accelerated logic cores to cogitate paths through the warp. So this is how they get around the we don't have psychers problem, I think. And it does also say quite interestingly, as artificial intelligences, they can only imitate emotions. It's rare, but not unknown for an Ironkin to possess ambition or seek to become a leader. So Ironkin HQ down the line, maybe? That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Don't see it soon, but would be cool nonetheless. And we did get a rules preview to go with them as well. I'm just looking for it. There we go. So we got a look at the full Hearthkin squad. That's the basic infantry unit for the Leagues of Votann. So we got a full look at the full unit, all 10 models, including their unit champion and all the different upgrades you can get. That's how we know there's an Ironkin option. There's all sorts of different weapons and kit options in there, which I'm sure converters and kit bashers alike will be having a lot of fun with, just looking through them at a glance.
I really like that long rifle.
So I was eyeing that up and thinking, how can I put that on a Space Marine? That would be really cool.
Yeah, and I really like the one with the Auspex scanner, or what was probably not an Auspex, but the idea of like a scanner type thing with the little sensor drone off his shoulder. Also, they've embraced the 1,000 degree knife meme as well, because the knife that kin is carrying is
plasma knife.
Hot.
Apparently, plasma based weapons.
Yes, that sounds right.
I also appreciate the fact that they seem to be indirectly referencing some of the original squat miniatures, because you know how some of the first edition squat models were, instead of being Viking themed, they were basically
the sunglasses. Yeah, because they got.
I wasn't born, but yes.
Sorry.
With the sunglasses and the pierced ears and the big handlebar mustache. It's like, yep. That's a reference to the squat biker, I reckon.
And there's one who very much looks like the cover of StarCraft. It's the one who's on the same pair with the Ironkin. I get a real StarCraft vibe from that helmet with the half visor up. I don't know why I get a real vibe of StarCraft from a couple of them. Don't know why.
It's Tychus Finley, but short.
Yeah, and they do mean short. They've actually shown a model next to a Primaris, and they're like actually half the size. In fact, I'll just get that image comparison for you.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that.
It's from yesterday, the anatomy of the kin. So they did a bit of a look. Oh, it's okay, it's not half the size, but they put the two next to one another just for comparison's sake, and it's pretty much to the elbows.
Sorry, they're so tiny. Oh my god.
They're about 4 foot IRL.
Yeah.
Oh.
So small boys.
God, my hands ache at the idea of highlighting those. But I would, because they look really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, they look so fancy. I missed the article.
You can make a little diorama of a Primaris giving a squat a head pat.
I like that idea. I'm stealing that.
That's nice. We also get some nice lore about them as well. A little bit about how their equipment works and a little bit about their culture too, which I quite like here. So the survivalist culture of the Leagues of Votann has bred a long-lived, hardy, self-sufficient race. In order to honour the ancestors, you must endeavour to live a full life, discovering as much as you can and offering your experience to the Votann, the AI core, etc. This thirst for knowledge has led the kin to launch countless exploratory and prospecting fleets and even fight as mercenaries in other species' wars, which may be how they segue into Demiurge. I don't know. I'll chuck it out there and see what you think.
I mean, personally, there's a part of me who still wants them to keep squats and Demiurge as separate, just similar races. Like, make the Demiurge to squats how the Eldari are to humans, essentially.
Just a hyper-advanced... almost the ones who came before.
No. Just one that, species that are superficially similar in appearance, but very different. I think we can have room in the galaxy for more than one, race of small boys.
Agreed. Yeah, I get you on that. Though, if you truly want small, you may want to check out the Kill Team preview because they introduced a very small, helpy robot boy, the cat unit.
Oh, they were teasing what could it go with and stuff. I like it. That's so, tiny. You just wonder what it could go, like what
so this
faction it would go with.
Well, it's on a Space Hulk. And it is an Imperial cat unit. Obviously, you can see the skull and almost looks like the Inquisitorial eye, which is quite nice.
Yeah, I missed that. I've just seen that. Sorry.
I'm not entirely sure that's actually the Inquisitorial eye.
Is it not?
But you know what I mean?
Is that not? It's for, it looks very similar to, no, it's not. Forget I said a word.
I think that's the Ministorum eye.
Yeah, that's certainly possible.
Yeah, it is. Yep, that's totally. So, yeah.
Yeah, good choice. Good spot there, Rem. Thank you for correcting. So yes, that will be in Kill Team preview. Again, 10th of July, 2 p.m. BST, in case you missed that earlier. Can I talk about Sigmar for 2 minutes?
Yeah, can do.
So, AOS is getting a new box game. It is called Arcane Cataclysm, and it pits the Lumineth against the Disciples of Tzeentch with 2 new miniatures. One is the Cenari Enlightener, which is obviously a Lumineth wizard. A very nice looking, very kind of simple but effective wizard model. Hopefully kind of can work as a combat mage rather than just a pure mage, but probably not because the Lumineth don't do multiple jobs at once. And the Disciples of Tzeentch get a new miniature for who was Village the Curseling, now just a Curseling, which is a really, really nice miniature.
I've actually seen some people complain about how they preferred the original Curseling model, though.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong, the old Curseling model is very nice. And I can see the arguments both ways. I think the new one is a bit cleaner, whereas the old one has a little bit of that old Warhammer Fantasy chunk to it, which you can take or leave at your leisure.
I'll say this, the new one has a more dynamic pose.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it just looks sleeker in general. Like, the blade is sleeker, the staff looks a bit more angular and sleek. Even the Curseling itself, rather than being like an extension of his extendable extra arm head thing, it seems like it's actually a symbiote that's bonded to his body instead. I know that's probably just the way they sculpted it, but it seems more sleek and logical rather than having a growth off the side of you that's a separate being. It's sort of like it's growing out of him and overtaking his body a little bit.
Yeah, I get it, yeah.
You also get, just for the record, 3 Zangor Enlightened, a squad of Carrick Acolytes, and some Zangor, as well as Archers, Blade Lords, and Dawn Riders for the Lumineth. So it's quite a big box.
It's always bloody Zangor. With anything Tzeentch, it's always Zangor. You never get anything else but bloody Zangor.
Well, there are some Carrick Acolytes, so they've not entirely gone Zangor.
No, but I mean, like, you take like any Tzeentchian-themed box set for both Warhammer, for Age of Sigmar and for EK, and it's always bloody Zangor in the box.
He's got a point. He's got a point. They are.
Like with a Thousand Suns box says, like, a Sorcerer, 5 Scarab Occult Terminators, and 25 Zangor.
Yeah, okay. On the Thousand Suns one, you can absolutely have the point. I think with the Disciples of Tzeentch, because their only real mortal units are Carrick Acolytes and Zangor, that's pretty much it. The rest of it's demons and heroes, like the Gaunt Summoner and stuff like that. So they haven't actually got a wide range of units in the mortal side of Tzeentch that aren't Zangor. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Like maybe some more Tzeentchian-themed Chaos Warriors, for example. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not something they've actually done for Sigmar. They haven't actually... I mean, they have and they haven't. Because in Khorne Bloodbound, you've got the Blood Warriors and the Blood Reavers who fulfill the cultist role like the Carrick Acolytes do. But you do have a heavy infantry there. In Maggotkin of Nurgle, you don't have the light infantry because Poxwalkers, despite the fact they're in Death Guard, are not in Maggotkin of Nurgle, and I've never understood why. They didn't just make a Poxwalkers kit that is compatible to AOS, where they just have enough melee weapons to not need the pistols. But they haven't. Your light infantry is bloody Blight Kings. And then Slaanesh has got archers and then heavy infantry in the form of the Myrmidesh and Simbaresh. So, yeah, Tzeentch doesn't really have a heavy infantry, and Nurgle doesn't really have a light infantry. But that kind of makes sense, because Tzeentch's faction is all about magic and that sort of thing. So I get why you wouldn't want just chunky heavy infantry or chunky heavy cavalry. I kind of get it.
I don't really. I'm not like an AOS person, so I'll just say yes.
Yes.
I was just going to say, they've updated the Black Library Coming Soon page again.
Oh, have they? Go on.
So, coming in July, for Age of Sigmar, we have The Vulture Lord, which is subtitled A Zothar Athrabis novel.
Yes, there's an article about that.
And I've seen some people saying, like, the sheer gall people are having to assume, like, oh, you assume it's going to be having sequels by saying, subtitling it as a Zothar Athrabis novel, even though no one knows who the fuck he is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, if it was, like, a character everyone already knew, like, say, you know, a Grey Seer Thanquol novel, people would be like, oh, I know Thanquol. Okay, let's check out his novel, kind of thing. But it just seems very presumptuous to subtitle it as a Zothar Athrabis novel.
Or it's they commissioned Richard Strachan for a series and they just...
But at the same time, you know, they commissioned Gav Thorpe for an Inari series and they cancelled it after book 2, so...
True. I mean, to be fair, I think it's a difficult one as well, because for Sigmar especially, almost everybody is a new character. So this is a way to establish a character, is to give them a dedicated series.
I understand that, but there's a better way you can do that in presentation. You know how you have Fabius Bile, Primogenitor, Fabius Bile, Clone Lord, Fabius Bile, Manflayer. I just call it Zothar Athrabis, the Vulture Lord, have Zothar Athrabis as the prefix, essentially.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see that, actually. That's a good suggestion. Approve.
It just seems far less presumptuous, you know?
Yeah, I get you.
So in July, we're getting the paperback edition of Twice Dead King Ruin.
Which we've discussed on the podcast.
We have indeed. As well as the Wraithbone Phoenix, which is the Baggett and Clod novel for Warhammer Crime. That's coming out in August. As well as the paperback edition of Urdesh, the Magister and the Martyr in paperback. As well as Godblight in paperback as well at the same time. And we're also getting the Fabius Bile Omnibus. So for those of you who've not checked out the Fabius Bile novels yet, you'll be able to get them all in one go in August. So enjoy.
That's good. And I think I'll pick up Godblight as well, because that's the Lumineth novel, so I think I'll pick that one up.
No, Godblight's the Dark Imperium novel.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like...
Sorry, I'm thinking of Godsbane, sorry.
Yeah. And we're also getting the limited edition for the Rogel Dawn novel, The Emperor's Crusader, and I just want to point out this limited edition looks absolutely beautiful.
Ooh.
They always do with the Primarch novels, they always do.
Well, except for the Lionel Johnson one, that one looked kind of shit. I'll be honest. The Lionel Johnson one was kind of shit looking.
It's an interesting premise as well for the story. So we're 60 years into the Crusade, and 4 Primarchs go past a warp storm in the north of the galaxy that's blinded the Emperor. He can't even see past it. So A, who's going? B, what's there? And C, how powerful must this warp storm be? And D, why does the Emperor even want to know? Well, I know why he's the Emperor, but...
Well, think about...
Sorry.
That's all right. Well, think about what warp storm was created around the start of the Great Crusade. In the north of the galaxy, say the galactic northwest.
Yes, the Eye of Terror. Slaanesh has just been born.
Exactly. Gav actually posted on Twitter in regards to say, which Primarchs would you like to see in this? Because Gav wrote the novel. And I just responded, I hope Comrade Kurz is in it just so he can have him beat the shit out of Rogel Dawn again. Because that did happen, remember? Comrade Kurz beat the shit out of Dawn with his bare hands. Then got arrested for it.
Yeah.
Then he escaped from prison and blew up Nostromo.
Kurz, man. Kurz.
In fairness, he wouldn't have beaten the shit out of Rogel Dawn if Fulgrim hadn't tattletaled. Because basically what happened was Kurz admitted about the visions he was having to Fulgrim, and Fulgrim told Dawn, and then Dawn confronted Kurz about it, and then Kurz got pissed off and beat the shit out of Dawn because of it.
Brothers.
So it wasn't snitches get stitches, it's snitches get their mates stitches.
Pretty much.
Did we talk about the Hellbrecht novel?
We didn't know. You mentioned it briefly earlier.
I did, yeah. I wasn't sure if it was in the coming soon page somewhere.
It's not in the coming soon page yet, though, but it did have an article on Warhammer Community somewhere.
Yes, so this is Helbrecht, Knight of the Throne, I think it's called. I'm trying to find it. Yes, Knight of the Throne. So, let's see. A fateful encounter with a reborn Robert Guilliman, so Helbrecht gets to meet Guilliman, leaves Helbrecht shamed, yet a vision draws him to a ruined world. So, yes, this sounds fun. And the cover, like all of these sort of character biography, not anthology type things, looks absolutely bloody gorgeous, as per.
I'm just thankful it doesn't look like the Horus Heresy character series with the fabric covers, and they just look pretty much always terrible.
Yeah, that's true. And it's interesting that it talks about this meeting with Guilliman, because that links up with something in the Dawn of Fire novel that I finished before episode 150, but that I never finished discussing on the show. So might wheel back for that. But there's just some really interesting discussions to be had here. Sort of like, he's willing to hold his ground in the face of Guilliman, but gets chastised by the God Emperor's reborn son. He's got loads of pathos, a penitent path for High Marshal Helbrecht. That's a take. So yeah, it's faith against reason and all this stuff, and I'm looking forward to this.
I will say this, though. The cover for the standard edition version novel looks kind of derpy.
Well, to be fair, we're comparing to the Ghazghkull novel and the Huron novel, neither of which... I mean, the Huron one looked fine.
The Huron one looked fine, except for the font.
I've never liked the headband thing that he's got. Never been a fan of that. But yeah, I know the limited edition cover looks great. It's really good. I look really good.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen him depicted with a lantern before.
I think he's got one on his new model. God, I painted it as well, but I can't remember.
I mean, probably it does, because I've never seen it depicted quite so front and centrally. That's a bad sentence.
Well, you're a teacher, you should know better.
Yeah. My colleagues in the English department are wincing. Oh, there was also a Necromunda miniature that I'm sure Remleiz was very happy to see when it was revealed. The Spiker.
Oh, yeah! The Dalax artificial Psyker, yeah. That looks... We got proper scanner vibes from this guy.
Dude, with the giant... Oh my god, yeah, that's... Okay. Yeah.
The Galaxy Brain Man, yeah.
That's...
I do like that model.
It's really ridiculous, but it just fits so well.
It fits perfectly for Necromunda, because Necromunda is in itself ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is true.
And actually, it's got a really nice paint job to it as well. Like some of the character or special models from Necromunda, like some of them have been looking a bit ropey in the paint job department, but this one looks nice.
I know what you mean.
I just noticed he has full-on anime eyes. He's got the eyes of an anime girl. Oh god.
Why have you done this? Because now everyone who has just seen this now can no longer unsee it. Why have you done this?
He's got anime eyes.
Remleiz. Boo.
Watashi no spike desu. Kind of thing.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm glad you did that. I was going to do that.
God.
Or alternatively, they look like googly eyes.
With that facial expression, it looks like he's doing the full-blown
No, do not finish that sentence, you bloody weeb.
I just did. What are you going to do about it?
Nothing, because you're the one editing
Damn
it.
right.
Also worth noting, there's an Index World Eaters in the current upcoming / just come out / been out this month White Dwarf, because there's a World Eaters Codex coming. I think we've mentioned that before, but just as a heads up, World Eaters players, you are not going to get anything in the new Chaos Codex because you're getting your own Codex. You'll get one soon. At the moment, just you've got some tied over rules in White Dwarf, just as a heads up.
Heads up. That's quite suitable for World Eaters, isn't it?
Yes, because once you get the heads up, they'll be taking their heads off.
But I'm Tish.
Oh, also, they did a sit-down interview with Dan Abnett. Did you get a chance to read it?
I did not know.
I didn't either.
So they did an interview with Dan Abnett regarding the Echoes of Eternity novel, because Dan Abnett has written the last book, just as we would expect, but he has. So yes, it just talks about his journey through the project, sort of how significant it's become and how demanding it's become. Things like that. Things like contradictions, evolving mythology, just make it work, fill in gaps, do justice to the well-known bits. You can't let readers down by changing things or not giving them what they quite rightly expect to see, but they also want to be surprised and learn things they didn't know. Yeah, that's us. Hi. We're that person.
Whoops.
Yeah, sorry. We are the people who were like, this actually didn't happen this way. Why have you changed it? Type thing. But yeah, all bad. And I think it also talks about the ending as well. How did you approach writing a story with a predetermined ending? Cautiously is his buzzword. I thought I knew what writing a Siege of Terra book would entail after doing Saturnine. I did not. He's never written anything this big in terms of scale or word count. Never taken so many pages of notes or research or done so much planning and just got things drafted the way they have. So yeah, it's called The End and the Death. Astute readers will know exactly where that phrase comes from.
I don't. Sorry.
Ram, help. The End and the Death?
For some reason, I'm just thinking of Stereo Mud's song End of Everything. That's all that's coming into my head right now.
Never mind. In some respects, you know exactly what this book contains. A death, more than one, so get your hankies ready, and an ending. It's vast in scale, form and ambition, absolutely tells the story you expect and want, but also packed with twists, surprises, jump scares, callbacks to even the earliest novels. I was there. I'm quoting Dan. I'm just quoting Dan.
I'm just getting this mental image, like if someone gets the ebook version and all of a sudden, like, they turn the page and they get fucking Five Nights at Freddy and I'm trying to jump out and going, ah!
No, God,
yeah,
no.
One entire chapter was just, ah! That was crap.
Yeah, and some revelations that may make your jaw drop. There are even a few jokes. It's heroic on a Warhammer scale, but also truly sad, cosmic in scope, but intensely personal. 18 months of writing.
Wow, God. Oh. I'm so behind on the Heresy books. Seriously. Old Earth. That's where I am at. I'm like, he is behind. Don't spoil the ending for me.
In fairness, Old Earth's a good book, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
And speaking of book series reaching their end, we're actually getting the final book in the Vaults of Terra trilogy, which is titled The Dark City, aka the book series which is we, the High Lords of Terra, are getting the BDSM space elves to fix God's magic chair because we're idiots.
Oh, is this the two? This is the Custodian and the Sister of Silence that got a model?
No,
or is that something else entirely? Just because Chris Ray makes me think of them too.
They are linked. Those two series are linked. Because that Custodian on the cover of this book is actually featured in the Watch of the Throne series as a supporting character.
Oh, whoops, sorry, wrong series, Watch of the Throne, my bad.
Right. The Vaults of Terra is basically the Inquisition one. You know that one when we talked about it like ages and ages ago when we were discussing Hollow Mountain?
Oh, Hollow Mountain, yes, that name rings a bell.
Yeah, that was the second book, and this is the follow-up to it.
Yes, and as you say, going to the BDSM Space Elf City to go and get the magic chair fixed. The Dark City, that's clearly Comara. Good luck, idiots.
I'm interested to see how the story goes, because we had the tidbit of, like, the High Lords of Terra petitioned the Dark Eldar for aid from, like, 5th edition or whatever, and that's pretty much all we heard from it until this novel series. So now we actually get to see how that actually panned out. I'm going to take a wild stab at the dark here and say it did not end well for anyone. Except maybe for one lucky homunculus.
Yes, because they got to fiddle around with the magic space chair.
Either I was like, oh, I got some Custodian bits. I like that, thank you.
Absolutely. Also, just a note for players, and particularly Heresy fans, the Kratos Heavy Assault Tank also has 40k rules. Just thought you ought to know.
Yeah, on the community site you can find those. I'm looking at my Kratos now and just thinking, oh, God, blue. Always painting blue.
Which Legion are you painting?
Have a guess.
Well, it could be Ultramarines or Night Lords.
Right.
Rule of thumb says
it is Ultramarines, okay, but like I bought the Night Lords Contemptor because I've always wanted to paint it, but I'm actually going with the Emperor's Children.
Ah.
I don't know why. I like bright colours, so it kind of gels.
Yeah.
I just noticed.
Checks out.
I just noticed. Is it just me, or does the Sons of Horus Praetor here? Is it me, or is it larger than a fucking cataphractii Terminator?
I can put that to the test right now because I've got those right in front of me.
It does look bigger than the Justarian standing next to it. I'll give you that.
He is a big model. I can't remember where I put it. Oh, there he is. Right. The viewers, just trust me on this. Yeah, he's bigger than a plastic cataphractii and a resin cataphractii Praetor.
Ooh.
Big guy.
Big boy.
Yeah. I'm comparing him to the Ultramarines cataphractii Praetor, so just if people want to look.
Speaking of picking legions and things like that, do you want to know what the ranking was in terms of which legion people, the whole thing on the app about the legion quiz?
Yeah.
They actually published the results.
Oh, did they?
They did. So it's not necessarily a popularity contest. They do say it depends on certain uniqueness. So we'll run through the bottom end pretty quickly. Wordbearers, Iron Hands, Thousand Suns, White Scars, World Eaters, Sons of Horus, Death Guard, Emperor's Children, and Raven Guard all make up the bottom half, between 2.8 and 4.7% each.
Oof. That's low.
Yeah, very.
Indeed. In 9th place, the Iron Warriors with 5.5%. In 8th place, the Night Lords with 5.7%. Then the Ultramarines and Salamanders with 5.8% each.
Wrong. That has to be wrong. Ultramarines should be 99%. Surely.
Let me guess, number one's going to be either the Imperial Fist or Sons of Horus.
The Sons of Horus came 13th.
Oh, fuck yeah. Of course. I forgot.
In 5th place, the Space Wolves.
Boo.
In 4th place, the Alpha Legion.
I feel like I'm on top of the pops.
Coming in at number 3, we have the Blood Angels. At number 2, the Imperial Fist with 8.8%, which means number 1 in terms of the what result did you get on a quiz was the Dark Angels with 9.9% of the vote.
Oh, wow. Still at number 1. Second week in a row.
Legion number 1 gets number 1 in the quiz result. I'm calling shenanigans on this.
Yeah, that's fixed. Fixed. Come on.
Yeah, it's just interesting because obviously I did take the quiz. I got Imperial Fists.
Do you know what? Right. First time I did it, it's the obvious one, Ultramarines. I was quite happy. I had a friend of mine keep doing it until she got the one that she wanted. It's like, it doesn't work that way. Sorry.
But speaking of Iron Warriors, though, we're getting some new upgrade kits from...
And Dark Angels, actually.
I saw the Iron Warriors ones yesterday. I quite like the look of those. They've now done what we wanted for years, which is 10 helmets and a bare head, and not 9 helmets and a bare head. So I like that move.
Yeah, there are some really cool designs in there with the fact that the helmets are clearly like marked. They're not really marked. They don't even look beaky. They look like completely different to standard Mark 6.
Yeah, I'm
really
pretty
nice.
sure you can chuck them on the other plastic. Or any, Mark 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
I just appreciate the fact that they modelled most of them after the Iron Warriors sigil, which was like an obvious choice, but it works.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, hadn't thought of that, but yeah, true. But yeah, so I think we've pretty much actually, minus a pile of articles about all a bit more about the paints, about the Easterlings, because people apparently care about Middle Earth still. There's new rules for the Wordbearers Apothecary unit that would desecrate the dead, the Procurators.
In the Horus Heresy DLC, yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned the balanced data slates and stuff like that, but none of us really are. I'm certainly not a competitive enough player to understand it. We got an article there's a load of stuff about the Chaos Space Marines Codex, but there's kind of no point discussing it because it'll be in people's hands by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
The last one I will touch is the Necromunda Wasteland Workshop. So the Wasteland Workshop allows you to basically make your own custom vehicle.
Which is
That is cool.
So you pay a series of credits for the vehicle and its toughness, its hit points, and then it's upgrade slots, and you can get all sorts of different things. For example, 4 different types of ways to get around: wheels, tracks, legs, or skimmers. If you particularly happen to be Van Saar. All sorts of different hardware like wheel sides, extra armor, escape hatches, plasma engines, guns, more guns, and more and more and more and more and more guns. Different size chassis. It sounds like a really cool idea, even though I'd have to really see it in action to know if it was much fun. But I mean, we already knew that this sort of expansion was kind of leaning into Mad Max, and they've properly gone Mad Max.
They have, and they look absolutely so much fun to do.
Yeah.
Get ready for a whole bunch of custom Goliath rock grinders.
I mean, it does suggest the idea of a banjaxed Baneblade.
Ooh. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Can you imagine it's like, a big jacked up, ruined Land Raider, then the Imperial Fist of Necromunda going, where the fuck did you get that from? So, we found it. It was over there in the wastelands. We found it. I don't know why I'm talking like this now. All of a sudden,
change accent. Hi.
So where exactly are you from? I don't know. I just have this weird accent. I have no idea.
Okay, stop. Sorry, just no. Sorry to be the buzzkill, but no.
Is it because I went a bit French at the end?
Oh, it's not because it went French. It's because it went completely unintelligible.
That's no change from any other day, though, is it?
Yeah, I'll let you say that and I won't actually say it. Oh, also, it was in the last month. Did you see the article about what if Horus actually won?
I did, yeah.
No.
Did I?
Yeah. Oh, no, wait, yes, we did. Yeah, we talked about it briefly, yeah. That's where we did.
We might have done. Actually, no, we did. Yeah, we did. Sorry. Yeah, I've gone too far back in my scrolling now. Yeah, right. I'll stop scrolling. So, yes, that is the news. Abridged.
The very, very, very abridged version, because let's be honest, I'm not going to be sitting in editing a 5-hour podcast just catching up on news.
No, and I think we've done a pretty good job of hitting the big stuff and discussing things as we went. So, yeah, happy with that. Right. Don't know why I'm taking charge here. I'm not the host.
I was going to say, well, since you want to take charge, why don't you discuss your reading of the Dawn of Fire novel you were getting through?
Yeah. Are we still in spoiler zone?
How long ago did it come out?
Oh, God, now you're asking. Well, it's been a month since I finished it, so...
It was a Throne of Light, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That came out in May. We're in July now, so yeah, you're fine.
All right. So, just as a recap for those who do not remember, because it was a month ago, we left off the story with a black ship that was about to be attacked. And I'd actually just raised a bit of a complaint about the fact that things were not crossing over and stories needed to intersect a bit more. And then immediately the story started intersecting. So that was just a case of bad timing. So the word bearers led by the sorcerer from Gethalamor come in and actually use chimerae rather than proper flesh hounds in order to hunt for souls and things like that. So they're actually semi-permanent within the materia, which is quite a nice touch to see a warp beast that's not a demon being used by the forces of chaos. Mm. So they take this psyker off the black ships. They do a lot of murdering as well. And they sort of pamper him and butter him up and all this stuff to convert him to the powers and then blow him up in a ritual. So that the source...
Sorry, when you said butter him up, for some reason I imagine them actually spreading butter all over him. I don't know why.
I mean, it is chaos. It could do anything. But that's...
Some garlic butter, some herbs,
yeah, now we're talking. Yeah.
Yeah, so they do a big ritual in order to sort of visualize what the Throne of Light is, because it's never revealed what it is, but a lot of psychers on both sides are sort of seeing this vision of a being bathed in light, and people are thinking it's the Emperor and this, that, the other. But anyway, we have this vision, and they're like, right, we need to go to one of two places. One is a completely dead world, and one is a quite important Imperial world. So that's where the Chaos Forces decide to go, and it turns out to be the correct place. There's lots of different stories that intersect. We get to pick up with the Inquisitorial team, who are investigating on-world at the time, before the word bearers arrive, and are on the brink of hunting something down, and they're all trying to deal with this Nexus world, So it's essentially, it's not an administratum world. It's like an Adeptus Astra Telepathica world, almost, which has got a vast amount of broadcasting power and huge repositories of information. It's kind of like an astropathic nexus, I guess is probably one of the best ways to describe this planet. And it's all about archiving this data for the Sororitas and trying to get that off-world, as well as the battles between them and the word bearers that we pick up with the fleet, and with them. And we also get to pick up with the Black Templars a little bit, which is why I mentioned it earlier with regards to Helbrecht, because clearly what we've already seen in the Helbrecht article and in this book is that Helbrecht has embraced the Primaris. It tells if he's been told, you are having Primaris and you will like it. And he has, and the word has gone out among the Eternal Crusade. But this battle group of Black Templars do not have any Primaris. There's one ship, it's down to a bare bones crew, and they have no Primaris on board. So the Imperial Fist, I forgot his name, who was safeguarding Gwelfrain, as kind of his friend, as near a space marines can be to friends, with Gwelfrain, is dispatched as a Son of Dawn and a believer in the God Emperor to go and join this group, which he does. And they're like, no, thanks for the offer. No, you're not joining us. To which the Imperial Fist eventually has to go, actually, you know what? I want in. Trial by combat. And he fights the Marshal of the Crusade, who he beats. And the chaplain, who is very not on board with the Primaris project, is like, all right, fine, you can join. You, specifically, you singular. And he does. And they're basically just running on nothing. Like, they have to dress their own wounds. They barely have any serfs, etc., etc., etc. And then suddenly they just leave. Like, all the Primaris reinforcements are not allowed on board, and then the ship just leaves. And they will rejoin them later as part of the conflict over this Nexus world, and I've completely forgotten its name, and it's doing my head in. So Corfairon himself is actually a very present character. He actually leads the assault on this world, or at least the fleet element of the assault. And the fleet mistress gets a bit cocky, and Corfairon goes for it, and he actually uses his Athane dagger quite cleverly, in that rather than trying to run a gauntlet through the Imperial fleet, which he might win, he might not, he simply uses his Athane, cuts a hole in reality, and sends 20 Terminators through it to go and take over the astropathic nexus. That was easy. Doesn't work. Well, it does work, but the Terminators, thanks to the resilience of Ferran Areos, I think his name is, who's currently on sort of learn from human duty, learn how to human duty from Messinius. He sort of leads their defense. And it's actually quite interesting how Areas has to go from we fight to sometimes we have to, fall back and be strategic about it because there's not enough of us to win this fight together. So sort of engaging in certain combats, don't just rush in and throw your life away type thing, which is quite a fun conversation to have. In the end, the Imperials win. Long story short. The word-bearers are thwarted for the most part, but the astropathic nexus is kind of wrecked in the process. And there's two conversations I really wanted to pick up from this book. Actually, the two I sent to you, Remleiz, when they came up. So one is a conversation from much earlier in the book where Guilliman talks to Messinius. And they actually talk about the conversation between Guilliman and the Emperor. Yes, that chat. So it talks about there are more so-called gods exerting their will upon the mortal plane than the Emperor, all opposed to our victory. I was targeted by each of the four powers whilst in Ultramar and on Crusade. Some of their tricks were subtle enough that I nearly succumbed. The Emperor has not spoken, nor has he moved for 10,000 years. I saw him, and what I can remember of the experience is contradictory and painful. And although from a certain point of view he and I did communicate, I do not believe he is capable of acting directly in this way. The only practical, Gilliman's way of saying the only logical conclusion, is that these seeming miracles of imperial sainthood, miracle tricks, and the blessing of the emperor are nothing of the sort. Like, Gilliman has met the emperor of late, does not really recall the experience. It hurt like hell. They didn't really talk. That doesn't make sense. And the emperor is completely kind of broken. He can't directly influence the mortal realm. He can barely communicate with his own son without nearly killing him or causing some severe damage. So yeah, interesting. I just found that conversation really fun. The other one comes right at the end. So after they've evacuated and the word bearers have retreated, Fabian chats with Inquisitor Rostov, who pretty much nearly died at the hands of the word bearer sorcerer earlier on. Basically doing a bit of a Han Solo off the bridge, but not actually dying. He broke both of his legs on the way down, but he did survive it. And they talk about the visions. And I sent this to Rem, and Rem was very happy. Because it talks about this idea of he is coming. That's this vision that keeps getting repeated. And who is he? And Fabi's like, is it the Emperor? And Rostov goes, well, that's the question, isn't it? I'll tell you something very few people know. Some time ago, there was a notable action undertaken by a pair of inquisitors named Alexio and Fortes, a successful one. Despite the fact that their pair of them had diametrically opposing views, they deemed this threat so great that they combined forces. The target was a group named the Cult of the Star Child. There was...
Oh, that...
There was...
Sorry, I just... Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yes,
years ago.
There was fanciful talk among this cult that the Star Child was some kind of benevolent entity that would lead mankind to salvation, perhaps an expression of the Emperor, God made flesh. According to Rostov, it was all lies and the cult was rooted out and destroyed on level North 4 with the aid of the Salamanders, but 4 of their leaders escaped, and Rostov ponders whether this evil, the cult of the Star Child, is seeping back into the universe. Now, I'm going to put evil with an asterisk because this is the Imperial doctrine belief of what evil is, so just going to chuck that out there.
Yeah, because I do want to point out at this point in time, those 4 leaders are supposedly... are Sensei, aka the Emperor's biological descendants.
Yes, they're referencing that.
Yes.
So yeah, they seem to be suggesting that not necessarily this is the Star Child confirmed, more that the idea of the Star Child has not gone away, and they could play with the idea again in future, and also confirming that there are still Sensei out there, the supposed descendants of the Emperor. So is the Throne of Light and the being in these visions the Star Child? Is that a version of the Emperor or not? All of that is left unconfirmed, but they've put the word Star Child back into the conversation for the first time in, God, a very long time in terms of like...
6th edition.
No, 6th edition, so yeah.
Yeah, decades. I remember reading that in the 90s, 2nd edition.
Yeah, because the Cult of the Star Child thing on Level North, that was in the 3rd edition rulebook. It was like a piece of in-universe text, like it was a letter written by Inquisitor Rostov as a report. That's one of those things when people say like, oh, it showed that the Sensei were all destroyed. No. It said, even was then, it said that 4 of them survived, and even then you have to take into account unreliable narrator, because of it being someone's personal report.
Even if that someone is an Inquisitor.
Yes,
absolutely.
Because let's be honest, they have things like personal bias.
Absolutely. Look at Amberley Vale. But yes, Star Child back on the table. This has caused controversy before. Every time the Star Child has come up in previous lore conversations, I always feel like it just starts something and people just get engrossed in the, oh, what? Hang on. No, G-dubs, don't do this. I feel like that happens every time the Star Child comes up in conversation.
I mean, I don't know if you've noticed. I'm sure you have though. But like how, as of late, GW seems to be referencing a lot more like 1st edition era lore. Like
high squats.
Yeah, well, like not just squats, but like during that tail end of 8th edition, we had that custodian novella, Auric Gods. The antagonist of that novel were the fucking Illuminati.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So it's like, oh, hello, Illuminati. We've not seen you for a while. I mean, granted, they got a name change. They got changed from the Illuminati to the Cult of the Illuminated. But they still did.
But still.
They have the exact same MO. They're doing the exact same thing that the Illuminati did. And, Illuminati illuminated, not exactly a subtle reference, let's be honest.
Nope.
It's like, when AEW turned Luchasaurus into the new Kane with that new music, with the organs, subtle AEW.
Wrestling. Yes. I am very curious, and I will just say this now, as a review of the book, it was good. I sort of read the second half in one big binge on the train, and it's been like a good 3 weeks since I actually finished it. But I properly just sat there and binged the second half, because once it got going and got to that point just past where we were at the end of 149, it really started to cross the stories together, pick up a little bit of pace, pick up a little bit of intrigue, and actually go somewhere. And I was really pleased that, well, I'm sure it wasn't like, oh, look, Guy, listen to all our feedback or listen to my personal whinging. But it felt like the feedback that had maybe gone around the internet about the structure and the way that the other Dawn of Fire writers had written it kind of bled into this book, where the storylines intersected sooner so that you were following the A plot and the B plot and a little bit of C thrown in, rather than having A, B, C, D, and E running in parallel until right at the end. And then you had the A, B, and the C plot, and then the A plot and the B plot kind of became the opposite, and then one became the A plot for a bit, and then we come back to the C plot, which is actually the E plot just being resolved, and it's like, oh god. So yeah, it was a lot better structured, I think, than Avenging Sun, but that just comes with practice as much as anything else. So good book, would recommend. If you can slog through Avenging Sun, you will notice the payoffs a lot more. If you're reading the previous Dawn of Fire books, the payoff is better because you recognize all these characters. You don't have to, but it really helps.
Fair enough.
I've also started reading Day of Ascension, the Adrian Tchaikovsky novel.
Oh yeah, that's the Genes to the Cult one, isn't it?
It is. I'm about just over halfway through. So I'll save it for another episode because I'm conscious I've been talking for about 15 minutes now. So I'll save that one, but I've enjoyed what I've read so far. I actually also bought Children of Time. I just haven't read it, like the actual one that made Adrian famous. I actually picked that book up. I just never read it. So yes, I'm currently reading Day of Ascension.
Fair enough. I've not finished through Blackstone Fortress just because it's a very, very chunky book. But I did get a bit further. I'll be honest, I probably won't finish it by the time of the next episode, purely because at the time of recording, the Mortarian novel should be on its way tomorrow. So I'll probably be jumping into that to read it for the next episode. But I can discuss what we've gotten to in the Blackstone Fortress now, though.
Go for it.
Obviously, no spoiler warning because the book's been out for over a year now, so deal with it. Sorry. So where we left off, Janus Drake and Thaddeus's crews are basically going over to the Blackstone Fortress itself, and as they're making the journey, Janus Drake notices, like you can see it through his bionic eye, there's this red smoke emanating from parts of the Blackstone Fortress. And in this smoke, he can see apparitions moving around. It's kind of implied for it to be demons or something to that effect. And whenever he looks upon this smoke, he's getting all these migraines and so much pain. He's starting having hallucinations regarding the fate of his friends and all that. And he ends up taking out his bionic eye. And when he does, the pain's gone instantly. He can still see the smoke, but he can't see the shapes in him anymore. So he thinks, maybe my bionic eye's malfunctioning, I need to get it fixed. So they arrive on the Blackstone Fortress, and everyone starts, gathering up. Thaddeus's, crew of, zealots is following him in, you are the chosen one of the Emperor Janus. And Janus oh, yes, of course, yes. Of course I am, yes. Follow me, everyone. They're making their way into the Blackstone, and they start seeing what look like trees. Now, it turns out these trees are made of flesh, because chaos.
How lovely.
And they have, fruit that are, talking heads, like whispering and stuff like that. And Thaddeus well, this is the mark of the great enemy. We must purge it. We must purify it. And Drake's yeah, but we don't actually have time to do so. We're going to have to leave it for now. No, we have to purge it. It's no, we really don't actually have the time, Thaddeus. If we come across one that's actually in our way, then we can purge it. But right now we need to leave it because the Emperor says so. Well, I don't like it, but if the Emperor says so, then fine. So they're making their way to what Ryan and Rouse, the two ratlings. It's a location they describe as being called the Red Stair, which is basically supposed to take them to the Crucible, which is where they're meant to go. And this Red Stair, it's a waterfall of blood, because chaos, and the side of the waterfall itself is flesh, because chaos, and the water or the blood flowing down the waterfall is flowing upwards, because fuck physics.
Yeah, Warhammer 40,000 is where physics goes to get murdered, I know.
Just science in general, let's be honest. So to climb this waterfall, they have to, like, cut holes into the fleshy wall and use that as, like, handholds and stuff like that. And they climb to the top, and it's like, I think everyone needs a bit of a rest after that climb. Like, Thaddeus is, like, completely ready. He's, like, panting heavily because he's a fat bastard. Drake's like, no, we need to keep pushing forward. You know, if we get stuck, we need to find out where we need to go, then we can take a bit of a break. But until then, we know we gotta go, so we'll keep going. Now, they're walking along this big bridge thing, this natural bridge, or choke point kind of thing. And
not made of flesh this time?
Not made of flesh, made of actual blackstone.
Oh, that's nice.
But they can hear chanting.
Oh, no.
And they see, like, it's the cultists. Like, the cultists are gathering en masse in this one chamber. Now, since they're up on this bridge, they're actually above the cultists at the moment. And everyone's like, okay, I know you zealots want to purify and purge, but we need to sneak past, because I don't think we can take on every single one of them at this point in time. Let's just try and sneak past, okay? Okay. But as they're trying to sneak past, Drake sees more of this red smoke that's surrounding what looks like a priestess.
Yeah.
And he wants to know if he can see the shapes in the smoke again, so he takes out his bionic eye and plugs it back in.
Ow.
Not only does he start seeing the shapes in the smoke again, but like shortly after he does so, the priestess turns her head and looks directly into his eyes from across the room.
Oh no.
And like she's starting to raise her hand to like point at him. So he's like, fuck. So he pulls out his splinter pistol and shoots her with a single headshot. Bang.
And now they're in trouble.
Yeah, the cultist starts panicking. He's like, where the fuck did I come from? And someone says, over there on the bridge. I was like, fuck it. Run!
Yeah, you can't fight that. Run.
And the cultists manage to catch up to them quickly, and some of the zealots start fighting back by using... Because every single zealot apparently is armed with a flamer. Because why wouldn't they?
Because, of course.
So basically just hear all this like gunfire and flamers, whatever, boom, boom, boom. And they retreat into this big chamber, this alcove, which seems to have like no exit whatsoever. Drake's basically saying, like, where do we go? And Rain and Rouse are like, well, the door's supposed to be there, but there's nothing there. Drake plugs his eye back in again, and he can actually now start seeing hidden passages in the Blackstone Fortress itself. So
that's convenient.
Yeah. Because apparently the Blackstone Fortress has formed a bond with Drake. It's very complex, and it ties into the events at the end of the last novel. Yeah, I know, it's weird. Yeah. But there's like illusionary walls blocking their path. So basically they go through the illusionary wall, the illusion breaks, they run through. Some of the Zeds that were wounded, they can't follow because they can't keep up. So basically Thaddeus says, right, you're going to stay here, you're going to cover our retreat, and if you do so, if you take as many of the cultists with you, you're going to sit by the Emperor's side. Okay? Okay, good. And these Zealots who can, like, run are like, oh, but I want to sit by the Emperor's side. It's like, yeah, well, they can't run. Shut the fuck up. So they keep running. They run through the halls of Blackstone, and they reach what is essentially a ship graveyard inside the Blackstone. Because the Blackstone, over time, any ships that come too close, it essentially eats them and starts...
Yeah, I think I've heard that before. Like, no, not literally, but I've heard that sort of thing idea, like a ship graveyard type thing before.
Yeah, like ships get like brought into it, and like their materials get broken down and used to basically make more of the Blackstone Fortress. So basically, it is digesting them.
Lovely.
Yeah, and another firefight breaks out. The cultists now have sentinels, as in sentinel walkers. Right. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, kind of thing. They're trying to navigate through this graveyard ships because they have to apparently pass through one ruined ship in particular to get where they're going.
Yeah.
However, when they try to do so, the exit's blocked. They can't get through. So they have to go all the way back out. Then Drake notices like a drop ship. I can't remember the exact model that was sent to, but it's like a drop ship. So he says to the pilot, can you fly that? What do you mean, can I fly that? It's like, you're assuming that thing still has fuel in it. If it has fuel in it, can you fly it? Yes, but... Right, get in the fucking dropship. Prep it.
Just like, right, we're out of options. I just really hope this works.
Yeah, big firefighter shoes, they get in the dropship, charging up the engines, boom, like, setting a whole bunch of colours on fire with the engine backwash. Multi-lasers turn on, it's like gunning everything in sight. Right, gun it, vroom. So they're flying through the cavern, and then all of a sudden, oh great, we're already out of fuel. Brace for impact. And that's where I've gotten to so far.
Okay, that's a good place to leave it off.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very, very...
bonkers.
I was going to say very Darius Hinks.
Very fast-paced.
Pretty much,
Which sounds it.
It is, yeah.
Still, it certainly seems like a well-set-up place. I'm just hoping to see how it gets paid off. Obviously, I know you said earlier the Mortarion novel takes priority. Of course, I understand that. But we'll see how it pays off.
Yeah. I'm hoping they do bring back the Archivist later on, because he was being set up as the antagonist.
Yep.
So, hopefully we get to see him soonish. I mean, I'm just over halfway through now, and yeah, it's a good book so far. I do recommend it.
Good. I mean, do you need to read the first one first?
I'd say it helps, because some of the Blackstone Fortress stuff can be very confusing.
Yeah.
So I recommend reading book 1 first. Book 1, I think, stands better as a standalone, whereas book 2 is pretty much just sequel bait, essentially.
Well, it's certainly a sequel.
Well, yeah.
I don't know about sequel bait.
Yeah, wrong.
Is that saying?
Wrong choice of words there.
Yeah, fair. But no, it's as much as we were talking earlier about the quality of the miniature design, which absolutely is there, the quality of the literature has also generally been exceptional for a very long time, and arguably is only getting better.
I will say, speaking of quality of miniature design, I just saw that for some of the Games Workshop stores offering a free Skaven miniature, and it does look a kind of bit derpy in the face.
I mean, that Clan Rat kit comes from before Age of Sigmar. It's
from
the
it looks very old,
8th edition fantasy Skaven, if not 7th edition. It's an old miniature. Very the thickness of the shield just should tell you how old it is.
It's like, looking at that, it doesn't even look like a rat, it looks more like a monkey.
Kind of see it.
Like a baboon or something.
It's a dreadful angle, isn't it, to take that picture?
It's a very, very bad angle.
Agreed. Never really been that fussed for Skaven in general, so I'm always going to be a bit harsher on the miniature design, but God, that range needs an update. I
think there's a lot of models in the Age of Sigmar range that need updating. Pretty much every single model that's like a carryover from Warhammer Fantasy, because they were all built for the rank and file, so they're very, compact.
Yeah, I think they are doing a full reboot of Cities of Sigmar, so I know they're working on the humans and things like that, and hopefully they get round to like some of the dwarf stuff and the wood elf stuff,
the ogres,
and the dark elf stuff too.
The ogres are very noticeable for being very rank and file because their arms are very close together to their bodies.
Yeah, particularly those standard bulls. The Iron Guts, it's not so bad because they're swinging overhead weapons, but the bulls, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And again, for like the old Warhammer Fantasy rank and file models, that was like a design compromise because you need to have everything in close proximity. So It was a compromise, but with how AOS plays, you don't need that. So
yeah, I can tell a little bit where they stopped doing that a bit because the Daughters of Cain, the Witch Elf kit that came out with 8th edition Dark Elves, God, even the ones that were on square bases, I could not rank them up. They were a proper pain to rank up when I built them. Even when I was just learning to play Sigmar, for storage, I sometimes just packed them together all in rank and file, and God, they were a pain. Yeah, but I know exactly what you mean. I think there's a lot of miniatures now. I'm glad they've moved away from rank and file. I get it, and I think there's an argument for it in the market, and I get why the old world coming back and all the systems it had, but it really was a lot slower system. And while I see the appeal of it, it does slow the game down having a rank and file system. The main problem in the later years of Warhammer Fantasy, which I think is also the reason why they decided to do the End Times and reboot it as Age of Sigmar to begin with, is that it eventually got to the point where you needed such large armies that it became so expensive that if you're a newcomer to Warhammer Fantasy, you just couldn't get into it because it was too expensive. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially when you play something like Skaven or Orcs or Goblins, something like, because like
For like Skaven, for example, you need at least, for 3 units, you need at least 60 miniatures. At least.
60? Try 100. But no, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I played High Elves, and I went through, I had 20 Spearmen, 20 Archers, a few White Lions, Phoenix Guard, Dragon Princes, Silver Helms. I did have an army, but if you were just playing like a 1K game of fantasy, it just felt awful. Like, to play a game like that, it's like playing a grand strategy game. It functions, I guess, at a small scale. But if you want to do it properly, you want big armies on the field.
Yeah. With
protecting each other's flanks and having cover for your artillery and your wizards, which are like mini artillery. And having supporting fire if you're playing armies like Empire, the detachment system, which practically said every troop unit was actually 3. It was a lot of units that required to be invested to make the game work properly. Now, did it work well at large scale? Absolutely. Until you hit about 3k points, and then it became so slow and so clunky to maneuver because your army was too big that the game just became unhandleable in a different way because you had 2 ranks of units sometimes just to fit on the board. Especially if you're playing a Horde army where, particularly because you could go 10 wide and 5 deep, and that was a standard skeleton, Skaven, Gobbo strategy to go 10 wide, 5 deep, or 5 wide, 10 deep if you were Skaven, because plus 10 leadership, yay. It was just ridiculous.
Absolutely, yeah. I know we've got some contentious comments in the comments section regarding this, but I do want to point out something like, for the longest time, I played Warhammer Fantasy. I may not have been into lore as much as I am 40k, but I played Fantasy a lot to the point I was in like a couple of tournaments. And like, the amount of, especially in the late editions, it was just so unwelcoming for beginners. Not necessarily because of rules complexity, because the rules were pretty much unchanged for like several editions, only for some minor tweaks. Like, if you played, 5th edition Fantasy, you could jump into, 7th edition or 8th edition Fantasy and can still play it pretty well. But, it was just mainly because of cost, more than anything.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I got into Fantasy in 8th edition with the Island of Blood. That was my gateway into Fantasy, was the Island of Blood, the Skaven High Elves box set. And I was very experienced with 40k at the time. I'd been playing 40k for 3-4 years. It was coming towards the end of 5th edition's life cycle. And I knew it really well, but every time me and my friends play Fantasy, and there's only 2 or 3 of us who actually bothered to try it, it was always a slow game that never felt right because of the scale of it, and was just boring because some armies didn't have a shooting phase, and the magic phase was really complicated to a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old who didn't really have access to internet forums and YouTube tutorials and things like that because it just wasn't the done thing at the time. It was really hard to learn and not exactly unforgiving, but it could be. I remember the first time I went to Warhammer World and played with my Fantasy, I lost my army in one go just to one stupid charge. And it was like, right, well, that was fun. Thanks for coming. And all that stuff.
I will say this when you say in regards to the magic system being complicated. When I started playing Warhammer Fantasy, if you wanted to use magic properly, you needed to fork out an additional 40 quid for a supplement.
Oh, yeah, I'm not pretending that 8th edition magic was the hardest and most complex it had ever been, but...
I mean, it was very simple system, with the card system. Roll 2d6, that's how many magic cards you get each turn. Each spell costs X amount of cards.
No, but then you have to add your wizard level to all of those, and then some generate additional dice if they've got certain things, and then how many dice are you going to commit to that roll in terms of law of averages, and you've got to think about the possibility of a miscast, an irresistible force, and then dispelling it. Oh, there's a dispel scroll, and all this stuff.
The funny thing is, that was actually one of the cards was irresistible force, and there was also another one called Drain Magic. So if someone had the Drain Magic...
Yeah, that's a High Elf spell. That's the High Elves have Drain Magic.
It wasn't even a spell, it was just a Winds of Magic card, for power cards. So someone during a magic phase, if you were preparing to play a spell, and someone had Drain Magic after being dealt the cards, they just go, no, your magic turns over, you don't get to cast anything, fuck you.
Yeah, do you remember? Well, you might remember in 2nd edition when 40k had psychic cards.
It was literally the exact same system as 4th and 5th edition fantasy.
And everybody hated it.
Because it was so overpowered. I mean, I'll be honest, I love the strategy cards.
I mean, they've actually brought them back as stratagems for 40k.
Pull a card off the top of your deck. Okay, before I start the game, I can do 2d6 shots at this unit because of a strafing aircraft.
Yep. It sounds like stratagems and things like that from the modern era. Sort of an older variant.
I like strategy cards, but the fucking warp cards, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I think as much as we've probably had a few hot, spicy takes in that discussion is there's a market for fantasy, absolutely. And I think it's kind of the trap that Heresy nearly was falling into. It was just at small scale, it was clunky. At big scale, it was incalculably slow. Fun, but incalculably slow. And had just a sweet spot in the middle that required a monstrous amount of money invested to play. And that meant that young hobbyists weren't playing it. Old hobbyists were becoming more curmudgeonly because they were the only ones playing it and it was all things were better back in my day. I'm being a little bit stereotypical there and I apologise, but I'm not entirely wrong either. And the player base was just being bled dry as people just slowly drifted away and no one came in to replace them. You might not like Sigmar, you can hate Sigmar for all you want, but without it, fantasy would just be crawling to its death.
If it hadn't done so already.
And the fact that Sigmar was popular enough to re-incentivize the fantasy community and re-incentivize that love for the old version that they've decided to bring it back. You can argue whether Sigmar has failed so hard they're rebooting fantasy or succeeded so hard they can afford to bring fantasy back. You can argue that to death. But there's no debating that without Sigmar, fantasy would be dead or dying. But because of Sigmar, both for good or for bad, fantasy is back. And there's a market for it because all the young Sigmar players who were quite interested in that system and those armies are like, wait, these guys have been around for ages. There was a whole world before this with a different game. I want to try that. So there's a market for the younger audience, the newer audience for fantasy now, which there just wasn't. And all the old hands have went, grumble, grumble, Sigmar sucks compared to fantasy, grumble, grumble. They've got their game back. Who loses in that equation? Nobody. Well, apart from your wallet.
I would say the person who loses is the person who burnt their Dark Elf army before the announcement
just
of Warhammer.
Screw that guy in particular. Just screw that guy in particular, because that's just so stupid and still hilarious.
I remember that from the last time I was on.
It's like a recurring trope at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
There'll be certain things we will repeat when we have certain guests on. It's like, hey, do you remember when we did this? Unintentionally, obviously, but... how are we doing for time? Oh, we got time for some questions. I think we got some from a couple episodes ago, haven't we? So,
yes, I should think so.
Do we get any questions on the last episode?
Go into the podcast.
Go into the podcast, check in the comments.
There's one here that says, is Rem in the running for Godfather of Warhammer lore, considering his massive knowledge on the subject?
No.
Yeah, and a lot of requests for the actual question sheet that you were working off to be published, because people would quite like to play it themselves and suffer.
I need to find where I put the question sheets.
Did you not just save the bloody spreadsheet?
I did, but I don't know where I saved it to.
Good grief.
Because I'm an idiot. I'm ill, leave me alone.
Yeah, you're all good, but no, I think that's pretty much it in terms of that. But to be fair, I was really pleased with how last episode did. I was really pleased. I think it went really well, and a lot of people were quite happy with it, would quite like to see it again. So, good concept, and thank you for coming up with that, Ram. Well done.
Okay. We can do that for episode 175.
Yeah, I could do. Yeah, that could be fun. And
we'll get different people in next time, so we can have a variety. So everyone gets a chance to test their skills.
Yeah, and maybe we'll go Alexander Armstrong and Richard Osman on it, rather than me forcing myself to play again, because it's just I'm too scared you're going to trip me up and screw me over.
I was like, how about we get Senator Armstrong so we can have some nanomachines, son? Things, no?
No, you lost me.
You don't know the Senator Armstrong memes?
Nope.
God.
I'm guessing it's like Metal Gear Solid or something.
It is, yes.
Oh, I actually did know something. Fair enough. I learned something. Or I guessed something semi-correctly.
You know, the American senator that Raiden ends up fighting ends up having the nanomachines. That's hence the nanomachine CERN comment.
Yeah, I couldn't tell off the top of my head if it was Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy, so... Because I know... I know.
Can you imagine like a Final Fantasy Metal Gear Solid crossover?
Jeez.
Fantasy Gear Solid or something. No, that sounds like a porno. No, ignore that. Anyway, questions. If you could choose one Space Marine Legion or chapter to replace the Ultramarines as the main chapter to advertise, who would it be and why?
Blood Angels. My logic for Blood Angels is two reasons. One, they are still very much good guys, but you also get to introduce the sort of darker and more tragic mythos of the 40k universe a little bit more easily. Like, I get you might not want to build the whole army around them because they don't follow the Codex Astartes, but if you're gonna completely upend the whole thing, then the Blood Angels are a stereotypical example of what 40k is. The whole rage against the dying of the light, one last chance to save everything. That's what the Blood Angels are. And they've got really interesting characters. People like Dante, people like Mephiston. This dark symmetry within the whole chapter and the whole Legion. They've got dark secrets in their closet. They've got a dark past and the tragic backstory that people can invest in, as well as being amazing, cool fighters on the battlefield with a unique twist that can sort of allow you to demonstrate the raw physical power of a Space Marine as well.
That's a detailed answer. I'm going to say Nova Marines because there are Ultramarine successors. There we go.
I was going to say, like, Nova Marines, that's a very out there choice. I respect that.
Yeah, that's the one that just come to my head as a successor.
I respect that choice.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what would you go, Ram?
For me, it would depend purely on who the opponents would be in the box set.
No, I don't mean. I think mean the full-on poster boy, not just.
Oh, the full-on poster boy. I don't know, really. To be honest, I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the first poster child was the Crimson Fists back in the day. And I think the Imperial.
Then it was the Blood Angels.
On first edition, it was Crimson Fists.
Crimson Fists in first edition. Then it was Blood Angels for second edition.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then there was Black 10 Plus for third.
Yeah, if they were more paintable, I think the Imperial Fist wouldn't be a terrible choice, but yellow is impossible to paint without...
Oh, God. Same with the White Scars and white, because white is terrible to paint as well.
Yeah.
I will just chip in and say that that's a bit of a myth about those paints. They're not as bad as what
I don't think it's that the paints are bad. It's just that painting them to look good is hard. I think...
Oh, yeah, it's
That's our point, yeah.
They are pain in the arse colours, but...
That's our point. It's too hard to paint to make them
like,
look
could
good.
you imagine, like, baby Timmy's first Space Marine? Yeah, you're going to paint this bright yellow. Oh, cool. And then it's either a wall of yellow or... Like, how do you train someone to paint yellow well compared to just, it's blue. It looks blue. You've got different shades of blue. That's quite easy compared to yellow or especially white, because white is mercilessly hard.
I'll say this.
I would tell you something, okay. There's one of the new contrasts is Imperial Fists, so that solves that problem.
True. Actually, true.
I will say this, like, instead of just painting yellow, imagine having to paint Lamenters.
Ooh,
yellow
God.
with the black and white checkers.
Yeah, that makes my brain itch to think
Alpha
of doing
Legion.
That.
With the blue-green
turquoise.
contrast
Turquoise.
and blending.
That's just easy, though. Just turquoise shade. Boom. You're done.
Yeah, fair enough. All right.
You're not painting black and white checkers on yellow armour.
Good point, actually. Yeah, you can have that one.
So that's why the Lamenters are so cursed, is because their armour's so fucking difficult to paint.
By that token, then Harlequins are cursed as well, because I get the feeling that most painters out who've done them for commission or whatever have Harlequin-based PTSD.
I mean, solitaires are cursed, so yeah.
Yeah, checks out.
Questions about 3D printing. Do you guys know about 3D printing?
I know about it.
I know absolutely
I don't know
nothing.
how to do it. I know what it is.
I've heard it. Yes, I'm aware of the basics.
If you were to hazard a guess at how long do you think it would take before 3D printing really takes hold of the hobby?
It won't. Like, unless it gets to a point where GW makes STL files and puts them out publicly on sale / for free, it will not become the dominant form of sales, because essentially anything else is a potential infringement on copyright and privacy law. So 3D printing cannot take over the hobby unless GW endorses it. And I just don't see them doing it because it puts so many people out of a job.
You also need to take into account the cost of a 3D printer to begin with.
For an individual hobbyist, yeah, absolutely.
Because you're looking at what? At minimum $400 to like $1,000 for a hobbyist 3D printer?
Yeah, I mean, you might say...
if you want a professional quality one, you can pay upwards of 10 grand.
Agreed. And admittedly, you might think, well, you're not having to buy any models anymore because, you have to buy the boxes. And yes, that's absolutely true. But even if the STL files are free, do you know how long it takes to spend £400 in this hobby? Like, you can get an army, a good quality army in most systems for less than that. And that's for the bare minimum. If you want an actual good one, you could easily get 2 armies or 3 armies for £1,000.
I've just seen one 3D printer that's on sale for 55 grand.
What?
Crikey. What does it print? Gold?
I have no idea, but it's on sale for £55,525 and 43 pence.
Is that like an industrial kind of scale?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
An industrial high-speed one.
Like, that's the kind of thing GW would need to use. And if GW started 3D printing their own miniatures, they'd still sell them as miniatures. So would it take over the hobby? Maybe in the production, but not in terms of hobbyists doing it themselves. I could see GW 3D printing like their terrain or certain kits, maybe, but I can't see them fully embracing it considering all the work their CAD and fabrication teams already do. Like, unless they're going to full on like sack half of the production team, why would you bother?
We know Games Workshop actually does 3D print some like promotional image, like some preview models, because obviously, they're going to have to test, make sure the CAD files are working properly, make sure the models actually fit together as intended. So it makes sense just to 3D print, one of those things, rather than making a full-scale production and finding out, oh, none of these fucking fit.
They are. The majority of modern kits have been 3D printed, and then the mold's been made from that as well.
Ah, right, fair enough. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, because on some kits you can kind of see that you can see that it was from a 3D print.
Yeah.
Is there a particular one, an example that sticks out to you as that was 3D printed kit?
Some of the Titanicus stuff. I've not had any, but I've seen people post pictures of some of the upgrade kits and stuff at resin, and you can really see that they've been 3D printed.
There was also that limited edition Sister of Battle miniature, the one that was based off the artwork from one of the novels. People were saying that one was 3D printed.
What, the one from the Ancient Blanchard?
No.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's from Faith and Fire's book, I think.
Yeah, because people say that if you look at the gun, you can see the 3D printing lines.
You can see there are, I can see them. It's been really brought out because they've dry brushed the casing. I don't know. It could be just a image. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know what I'm looking at in terms of what
on the side of the gun. You can see horizontal striations that look like print marks, but you can see them and then look away and they'll be gone. I think it might just be because it's been dry brushed, but don't take that for.
It's just they look a bit too uniform.
It does look. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, they don't look like mold lines, like they were sculpted that way.
No, because it would be flat. So Don't know. I've never seen that model in the flesh.
No, me neither, actually.
Because when you compare it to the other Sister of Battle special edition miniature that came out, you don't see the same striations on the gun.
This is true.
Oh, no, I can see them.
Oh, yeah, it's one that gets, again, you look once, you don't, and then you look again and you kind of do.
Yeah, I can see some. It could... I don't know.
It's not as noticeable in any case.
No. You have to look for it to look for it.
And second part of that question, would you want GW to start offering STL files for various bits a la different chapters, regiments, shoulder pads, helmets, etc.?
If the choice is 3D printed upgrade kits or no upgrade kits at all, yes. If the choice is between properly mold sculpted 3D upgrade kits and 3D printed, I'll take the molds, thank you. Maybe that's being elitist, but it depends. If GW need to do it to get them out, then yes, I'll take them. But if they're going to do it anyway and choosing in a poll, 3D print them or do them in a mold, I'd rather them be done in a mold.
I've seen some people saying like they'd happily purchase STL files if GW sold them, but I can't ever imagine GW even selling STL files just because of the piracy risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because all it takes is one person to buy it and then they just dump it online and everyone just downloads that instead.
Yeah, you couldn't regulate it, could you? Because that's just them giving away free money. So
unless you'd have to put it behind a password, wouldn't you? But then you could make it just like, here's the password for this file. Is this? You can't even put it behind
like a DRM or something.
Yeah, forgive me.
But then again, people will find a way to crack it, won't they? So
all that.
I mean, because taking the video game as an example, but like, when Sonic Mania came out and it had DRM, it was cracked within like 24 hours.
Yeah. That's the thing with a lot of modern media is people just look for ways to break shit.
Oh, sorry I'm related though. There was a thing like years ago for like Ubisoft, I think it was, for like one of their, is it Ghost Recon? I think the game was. One of the older editions of that. But like the original release of that game had like a DRM in it and like you had to have the CD in your computer when you booted up the game so it could check it, make sure it's a legitimate copy. But then Ubisoft started selling the game digitally, but didn't take out the thing of needing to check the CD.
Yes, so, I remember that. Oh, that was a big guff.
Yeah, but the funny thing was, they tried to patch it out, but they couldn't. They couldn't write it out. Even a clean uninstall wouldn't get rid of it or anything like that. So what they had to do, they had to actually download a pirated crack and use that as the official patch.
Jesus.
And the file on the official patch, you check the files of the official patch, it still had the hackers signature and stuff in it. And it was like, for fuck's sake, Ubisoft, you couldn't delete the fucking Word document.
Wham, wham, wham. I mean, you could say they're giving credit for the work that those hackers did.
Yeah, but it's just funny the fact that they had to actually resort to downloading an unofficial crack and using that as the official patch. That's just funny.
Agreed.
What was Horus's post-victory of Terra plan? Half his brothers had gone mad and the legions were falling apart.
To be honest, I don't think Horus had much of one left, considering how much of a puppet of the Chaos Gods he was.
It might have been a case like, hooray, I win! Oh shit, the Ultramarines just turned up, fuck.
It would have descended into infighting within the traitor legions, because Horus's goal was just to get Terra and take over from the Emperor, but not much beyond that. So, yeah, I think if he'd won, it wouldn't have lasted.
Yeah, and that was the Cabal's whole point of, if Horus wins, Chaos will eat itself.
Yeah, that's why they wanted it. Yeah. Oh, well.
Could the squats be the Men of Stone that was said to have been sent into the stars before the Men of Iron?
No.
Exceptionally unlikely.
Yeah, I think the law's really established on the origins. I can see maybe that could be worked into the new law-ish, but...
I mean, you could say that maybe they helped with the development of the Men of Stone and took them with them, and that's how the Ironkin came to be. But actually, that's the point. Do you think the Ironkin... I know they're not actual Men of Iron, but I do wonder, obviously timelines need to match up here, but whether the Ironkin and the Men of Iron have anything in common besides the word iron in their name.
I think that's just more of a coincidence because people like to use the term iron for anything, robotic. It's an Iron Man kind of thing,
Yeah, fair point.
I think I don't think there's a connection beyond the fact that they're artificial intelligences, beyond the fact that GW's unoriginal when it comes to names.
Accurate. Because
the squats were descended from colonists who went out during the Dark Age of technology, and over the 10,000 years since... So like, the year 20,000 is when they started going to the stars, and then from the year 30,000, by that point, they were the squats.
Yeah, they had landed on worlds quite gravity heavy, hadn't they? So they had evolved.
Yeah, high gravity worlds close to the galactic core.
Yeah. And then they got eaten, apparently.
Allegedly.
Yep.
We'll find out for certain in the coming weeks when we actually get the Squat Codex coming out. I heard they do reference it, because it was referenced in the Liber Xenologus, which was nice. Question for me, is Nurgle still outside my door? Yes, he is, and he won't leave. In the book The Lost and the Damned, Malcador tells Dawn, Khan, and Sanguinius that only one of the Primarchs would tell the truth of Chaos by the Emperor. We learn pretty quickly it wasn't Dawn, Khan, or Sanguinius. Who was it?
I mean, the logical answer is Magnus.
I'm pretty sure it was Magnus.
But also, Magnus continued to fuck up after that conversation, the whole consulting with Zinj to get to the Golden Throne thing. So, Magnus is the logical answer, but at the same time, he continued to consult and fuck around with Chaos anyway. So, if it's not Magnus, let's hypothetically say it's not Magnus, who else could it be?
It could be Lionel Johnson, because he was privy to a lot of information that the other Primarchs were not.
True.
I mean, even to the point where the fucking Dark Angels have pet men of iron, which, I'm sorry, but that's still so fucking stupid. So, we have a squad of men of iron who are literally being followed around with a tech ring with holding the off switch. It's like, for fuck's sake.
I'm gonna chuck Russ in there. Not because he'd necessarily want to understand it, but in terms of why you are needed to kill your brothers is because they could be corrupted by this primordial force.
I can just imagine the Emperor's talking to Russ about the intricacies and the dangers of chaos, and Russ just standing there going, I like your funny words, magical dad.
Magic man, I like your words, but...
But Russ claims to know the difference between the spirits of Fenris and demons, so he clearly has an understanding of what demons are.
Russ is also...
He's wrong, of course.
Russ is also a fucking hypocrite.
I mean, yes, he is also a fucking idiot. But I don't know, it's just interesting why was Russ chosen? Not just because he's a savage hunter who'll do what he's told, but Russ doesn't seem the type to kill without a reason. He had it put in his ear to kill Magnus. He's very much, he'll do it by the book. He'll kill if he has to.
Yeah, but he didn't need much convincing, considering that by that point he didn't like Magnus anyway.
Oh, absolutely, but he was still going to do it by the book.
It's like, I'm going to beat the shit out of Magnus. Why don't you just kill him instead? Yeah, I'm going to beat the shit out of him so hard he's going to die. That's how it was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just mean that Russ would still do things by the book. Yes, the Rout were incredibly feral and savage, and the Space Wolves arguably even more so. But when Russ had a job to do, he did it by the book. In terms of, if the Emperor told him to do it a certain way, he'd do it.
I mean, you talk about the Rout being savage. They were the only legion that had their own fucking commissars to basically shoot them, stop from doing stupid shit.
Yes, because...
Yeah, I say that they don't strike me, having read the books on Russ, he's not the most patient.
No, but I can understand Russ being told, go kill Primarch 2. Why?
Oh, he'd go and do it. He'd be like, do I need a reason? Not really. Dad told me to go and
Russ
do it.
is the kind of person when the Emperor says jump, he just says how high.
Yeah. I don't know. I know maybe I'm overthinking it, and I shouldn't be because I don't like Russ, but I can see an argument of, okay, I'll do it, but could you tell me why?
No.
Yeah, no. Just walks away. That's the end of the conversation.
And in fact, that's exactly what the Emperor would do.
Yeah, he would. He'd just be like, there's no why, just do. Now run along.
So good doggies don't ask why. They just do, and they get a treat, and scritches behind the ear. Woof.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Magnus, though, who was told, but if it wasn't, it'd probably be Lion. Because purely on the fact that Lion was told shit that the other Primarchs wasn't quite a lot of the time, so...
And he was exposed to it on Caliban.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure some of the other Primarchs were exposed to Chaos at some point, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Lorgar being a prime example.
Question about the Tau. We know Space Marines have several chapters and Imperial Guard regiments, the Necrons have several dynasties, and the Eldari several craft worlds, etc. Is the same true about the Tau? Do they have several kinds of warrior castes?
Yes, they have the Sept. And each Sept has pretty slightly different warriors. Borkhan's warriors are a lot more analytical. Dalith's warriors are a bit different as well. Viola's are very hot-blooded and impetuous. So they're all fire caste, but different Septs breed different kinds of warriors. So, yes. Short answer.
Yeah. Farsight Enclaves.
Yeah, the Enclaves as well. They have their own ways, and there's 4 different worlds there as well. So, yeah absolutely. The answer is yes.
Right, given a time, I think we shall cut it there for now. So,
alright then.
Thank you very much to everyone who joined us for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And thank you very much to Chickpaints for joining us this episode.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been fantastic chatting to you. And yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Is there anywhere in particular people should be looking out for your work other than on Warhammer Community if they happen to be interested in what they've seen on there?
Right. First of all, shout out to my friend Ashlyn. She's a really good commission painter. She's at Ashlyn_gaming. But you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and the Warhammer community website.
Awesome. Just thought it's one thing I was always getting told off for not doing enough promo with the guests, so I thought I'm going to actually make an effort and do it this time.
Thank you. It's just Chickpaints. Just put Chickpaints. You'll find me somewhere.
Absolutely.
There'll be a link to your Twitter in the video description below for those interested. So, until next time, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
This has been Tactica Imperialis.
And Chickpaints from Chickpaints.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.